guys on defense said that they thought that Ben was able to attack the middle of the field with tight ends because some issues with linebacker safety drops. I was wondering, is that something you noticed as well, and how do you fix that heading into Sunday's game?
Well, we just didn't drop, kind of like we've been dropping at times, but it wasn't only linebackers. We all had our issues. I don't think anybody could stand up there and say that it was somebody else's issue. I think we all do. I mean, we get beat deep on the outside. That's not a linebacker's problem. So it was a little bit of everybody. We just didn't play well. We didn't play fundamentally well all the way across the board, and that's goes on all of us. We got to do a better job of coaching them and things like that. So, there was probably a play or two. Ed, that's probably true, but there's also a play or two that was other things. So it was a combination of all. We just did not play our best game. We gave up too many big plays, and just didn't do a good job all around, coaching or playing.
What's your impression of the?
Sorry, go ahead.
What's your impression of the Browns tight ends, and then do you expect them to, or anticipate that they might also try to attack the middle of the field?
Sure. I mean, this is a copycat league, and usually whatever an offense sees the week before or a couple of weeks before, if they see a weakness in a defense or something like that, then they're going to try to attack that. Just like, if we see a weakness in an offense, whether it be an offensive lineman or a scheme or a protection or something like that, we're going to try to attack that protection. So they're going to try to do it. Absolutely. That's the way this league is. If you better get it fixed, and you better get it fixed in a hurry.
Dean, as you know, when there's an issue and a guy catches a deep pass, dynamic like Brent Brown, you should have doubled him. I mean, that's the outside perception. Do you have any laments about how that went down late in the game there?
Well, the thing of it is that Jeff really anticipated that question. So, all right. So here's the let me try to give you a good answer. There's a lot that goes into a call. It's not just all of a sudden a whim or something like that you're going to call. You're going to base a call. You do it all through the week. You base a call based on down and distance, what their personnel is in the game, and what their tendencies are in those situations. Okay? So on the very first 3rd and 4, we called one double. Now, who would you think we're trying to double? 84. Okay? And on that 3rd and 4, they ran a driver out for a first down because that was the guy that was open. Okay? So in the last play, the last 3rd down, what was the down distance? 3rd down and 4. So I tried to call a coverage that's a little tighter coverage to try to get them to 4th and 4 to try to end the game. Okay, so you can be criticized for being too soft. If I would have played zone and he completed one underneath for 4 yards, why wouldn't we try to get up there and get him? Or you can be criticized for being too aggressive and trying to play man and trying to get up there and get him. And the truth is we got beat on release. We tried to get up there. We tried to be aggressive. I tried to change the call from the first 3rd down and 4 that I ran. It was also based on study over the entire week that this is what they do. And generally on 3rd and 4, they aren't throwing a 9 route down the sideline. But he did. And so he did. And that's where my call came from. So, hey, I've been used to that for a long time. If it works, you're great. If it doesn't, you should have done this. So the way it goes.
So in retrospect, would you possibly move Humphrey on Brown now?
Yeah, we could have done that. That's probably what we, in hindsight, maybe what we should have done is try to do that. Yeah, that's true, Mike. We probably should have done that. And we talked about it actually on the sideline. And what happened is kind of in that game is like I played less man coverage than I've played the entire year. I really, after the first couple passes that were thrown, we were in man. We just kind of went away from it, and we went to a lot of zone. I mean, I pressured 40% of the time, and out of those 40% of the time, only one of them was a man pressure. Everything else was a zone pressure, just trying to keep the ball inside and in front of us. And, in retrospect, probably that's maybe what we should have done is tried to match that up a little better. I mean, I'll be honest, yeah, probably we should have.
Dean, I think John talked the other day, and I know, Weddle's talked about it in the past, not necessarily liking trying to shadow a receiver with one defensive back because it can kind of imbalance the defense overall. I mean, is that your take on it in general, or, do you try to avoid saying, hey, you're going to have this guy no matter where he lines up for the entire game, or?
You mean like what Mike's asking about whether you put?
Where you wouldn't want us to just say, Marlon, you're on Brown.
Hey, in an ideal world, you would love to play left and right corners or just play them where they are and let them line up and let them take them. And maybe if we had Jimmy, maybe it's a little different because we're in a rotation, and maybe that's what we'd do. But, that's what we tried to do. But whether it's right, whether it's wrong, there's so many different ways to skin a cat. And, there's a lot of teams that match up guys on guys. And does everybody know now? The only thing you got to be able to do is you got to be able to practice all week, lining up on that guy, and then being able to play zone and being able to play other things other than every time he lines up on that guy, we're in man coverage. So, that takes a little more sometimes than what you think, especially when you got a young guy like Marlon, because he hasn't all of a sudden to play a corner. It just would depend on the matchup. There's just a lot more involved. I'm not really trying to avoid it, but it's not. There's goods and bads to both. And generally speaking, what we've tried to do, for the most part, is not match up so that we can play zone, we can play man, we can pressure, we can do those things, and really not give away whether we're playing man or zone. If we would have done it in that game, it obviously would have been given away that we were playing man, but sometimes it's not all bad. It doesn't even matter if they know what you're in. If you can play it better, than they can play it. So
you had mentioned a few weeks back you didn't want Humphrey in the slot because you wanted to really focus on him playing outside. Does he get much work in practice on the left side, or is he primarily focused so far on playing on the right side?
Well, he's played primarily on the right side, just like what we talked about. We've really kind of had Brandon over there at left corner, and we've had Marlon over at right corner, and he kind of has played both only because he kind of substituted for Brandon and for Jimmy when we had the rotation going. So he has done both. So that really wouldn't have been a problem playing him left or right. I don't think that would have been anything significant for Marlon at all, whether he was on the left side or right side. There's times that when we go against two receivers and you match up, the left corner may have to go over to the right side, or the right corner may have to go over to the left side, may have to play on an inside receiver. So that the left-right thing wouldn't have anything to do with it.
And just to clarify, Dean, are you saying that in-game adjustment you maybe wish that you had put Marlon on him, or you're saying in the week leading up to practice Marlon just like he was going to cover Antonio?
Yeah, the thing of it is if you're going to do it, I have found in the past, unless it's just a little tweak of something, generally when you try to make a big-time adjustment on the sideline, it usually does not work out well because you haven't practiced it. Because there's some times even we'll pull up, we'll say, okay, this pressure. Well, okay, if we haven't practiced that pressure during the week, okay, and you try to put it in and everybody doesn't get it. I tried to put something in on the sideline, on Sunday night, to be honest with you, and I could just tell by the look in everybody's eyes, like, when about four guys asked me a question on it, we're not doing it. Okay, we're going to screw this thing up, and then we're going to give up a big play. As much as I want to do it, and I think it would help, it's not going to help if we don't know how to do it. And so it's really, you can tweak things a little bit. I don't know how to exactly explain to you what a tweak is, but it's very, very minor. But, when you really try to change something or change a pressure or practice something, do something that you haven't really practiced during the week, it's just been my experience over all the years that it just usually doesn't fare well. And that's what we kind of decided in the end, right or wrong.
Dean, in talking to a couple of your defensive players yesterday, they felt like maybe the stage got to a few guys that, everyone's playing really hard, but when they're watching tape, stuff that they've been doing all year and doing well, whether it's drops, whether, obviously the setting the edge and the Bell 11-yard touchdown, certain things they felt like they got out of the confines of the Ravens defense. Is that something you saw too, that maybe guys were a little too amped up?
Yeah, I don't know if I can't say that because I don't know what their mindset was. I can't tell you how a kid was feeling out on the field. What I can say is that was what was disappointing in watching the film, and I think that's what the players are alluding to, is we just did things that we characteristically did not do for a long time, just like setting the edge on that running play. That was a 3rd down and 1. It's in the red zone. It's late in the game. And we'd even said on the headset, and I even talked to John about it. I said, we're really not concerned about the first down at this point in time. I want to make them have to use clock if they're going to score and keep using clock and make it hard to get in the end zone. Obviously, we don't want to let them score. I don't mean that. But what I do mean is we just can't give up a quick touchdown right now. So we played a coverage that kind of doubled and 84, but also wasn't terrible against the run. And Tony Jefferson fit on the run unbelievable. He might have got the first down, but if he did, it would have been by a yard. It would have been a close call. But then he jumped outside, something that we've done a great job in the last 4 weeks of setting the edge on all those defenses, and we didn't do it. I can't tell you if that guy was it was the scene, the amped up or whatever. But we also, there's a couple of times that we didn't rush, that we felt like we started doing, one of the things we talks about is do your job. If you got 11 guys on the team, 11 guys got to do their job for the whole thing to work. And then all of a sudden we got an end who decides he thinks he hears something, so he drops trying to think he's going to stop a slant. Well, it wasn't a slant. And then Ben holds the ball, and the guy gets open. Okay, even on the last, that long play on the 3rd and 4, okay, if you watch the film on the play before, we played a similar coverage that we did have 84 doubled, okay, and we got a certain pass rush that goes with that coverage, okay. The guy executed the pass rush perfect and hit Ben right as he was throwing the ball, and the ball went sailing out of bounds. Okay, Ben didn't have time. He had to throw a quick one at the out, and the ball went sailing out of bounds and was incomplete. That was 2nd down and 4. Comes back to 3rd and 4, and the coverage I called is in the same family as the coverage I called previous to that. It's a tight coverage. It's just not a double. Okay, but for whatever reason, we didn't rush the same way. And if you watch the film, if we'd rushed the same way, Ben would have never got the ball off. Couldn't have thrown it down the field. Why did he do that? I don't know. He can't tell me. But he did. So that's what I'm saying. We did some things and when you do that, I don't care whether you're playing Pittsburgh, whether you're playing the Cleveland Browns, whoever you're playing, you can't do those things. Just do your assignment, and good things will usually happen. And sometimes it goes back to the question you were asking about, changing something. All of a sudden you start changing something and somebody doesn't really get it. Now you give up a big play. We had a couple of them in that game where an end was supposed to drop one time on his own pressure, and they throw a slant to Antonio, and basically we should have him doubled, but we didn't because the guy didn't drop. And he's dropped, and then we did it later on, and the nickel kills Ben, and he has to dump it down for a 3-yard gain to the tight end. Same play, same pressure, same formation, just didn't execute it. So to me, the bottom line of that game was we just did not execute on defense across the board. And it's not just secondary, just not linebackers, not front. Coaches, it's all of us. We didn't execute.
So moving on, what do you see from the Browns?
Well, if you guys are probably you guys watch a lot of film, right? You guys get the film and stuff on. I'm telling you what, this guy, if you were watching the film, this does not look like an 0-13 football team. I don't know how many times coaches have always said it. Most games are, not won in this league, they're lost. That's been their problem. They've played well enough. They've just given it away. They had a chance to beat Green Bay. They had a chance to beat Detroit. They've had a chance to beat a couple of teams, the Jets. They're 3 times down there in the red zone, the Jets, and give it away, and any one of those scores wins the game for them. They get a call overturned against Green Bay at the end. The Green Bay then comes back and ties it up, or they win that game. This is a much better football team than their record indicates. Much better. They're a scary team, just like every team that we play all year.
Dean, I believe Cleveland's quarterbacks have been sacked something like 40 times. Does that lend to you then, perhaps, that might influence you to call more pressures or, more blitz packages than you might?
Well, what you got to look at there, Ed, is he getting sacked by pressures or is he getting sacked by 4-man rushes? You can't just say that as a blanket statement saying, okay, well, we're going to pressure more. Sometimes when you pressure more, if a quarterback gets it out quicker, maybe he gets sacked less. Sometimes if you play more coverage and make him hold the ball, you may get more sacks. So it all kind of depends on, it's got to fit for us, what we can do. But it's really not a question I can say just because the guy got sacked more that you want to pressure more. Depends on how he got sacked.